Welcome back to the Community Spotlight, where we highlight the cyber business pros making waves, sharing insights, or launching something cool. Today's guest is Lee Cooper, the SEO strategist behind Cooper Marketing, where he helps tech startups, especially in cybersecurity, grow organic traffic, outrank big tech, and fill pipeline with content that actually converts. He's worked with Series A through D startups, built full stack SEO programs from the ground up, and helped brands 4 times their search traffic in under a year. If you've been wondering how AI-driven search, AEO, and shrinking Google real estate are going to affect your content strategy, Lee's got answers. So welcome, Lee. I'm very happy to have you here today, and I can't wait to ask you some very important questions around this topic that I feel like everyone kind of wants to know right now. So I would love to get some of your insights on the topic.
Sure.
So this whole thing sort of started with I saw an article, and I've seen things since about Google trialing an AI search as a default and giving people basically the option to make it their default. Now, whether or not that's being adopted widely or how that's going, I'm not sure, but it sort of set off alerts in my mind and probably other people's minds as to, well, what happens if AI search becomes the dominant way that people search? And already we know that people are using it, you know, regularly, just whether or not it's the default is what's in question. But probably we should get into describing what is AEO and how's it different from regular SEO.
Yeah, it's a really good starting point. I think when it comes to AEO, and many people have different terms for it. AI optimization, answer engine optimization, large language model optimization, generative engine optimization. I've even heard, was it searcher experience optimization and searcher journey optimization, which are the ones I like the most, but I think get the least recognition, unfortunately. And so there's kind of like this fear, some uncertainty, and some doubt in the room because they know what SEO is like, right? You take some keywords, you want to rank for the keywords, you get traffic, it comes onto your website, and you try and convert it into leads. Now people are looking at AI and they're thinking like, okay, that seems to be replacing old-fashioned SEO, but what is it actually? And how do I do it? I would say, firstly, from a customer perspective, it used to be that people went to Google, right? Were in some kind of moment where they had a question, they had a problem, and they were like, okay, what do I do about that? They take their problem and they try and crunch it into 2 or 3 keywords, throw it into Google and hope that the machine god understood their prayers,
Okay.
and then it would give them a whole bunch of links to pages that in theory had the answer to their question or the solution to their problem. That was kind of the idea. And it's actually kind of, when you think of it that way of like, hey, I'm going to take a human need, turn it into 2 or 3 keywords and hope that that somehow turns into a page that has what I want. That actually kind of sounds horrible in a way, and it's shocking that it worked as well as it did. And now with AI, people really are going to the AI. They still have some moment where they've got a question, they've got a problem. They go to the AI and they can ask some very like in-depth questions. They can really ask a question that's very personalized. Like I have this very specific problem and my company is, very small. We're limited on budget, but we need to be able to do this thing. How would we be able to do it on budget? That's a very long question.
Yeah.
It's very complex. It's nowhere near like 2 to 3 keywords. It can be highly personalized, and they go to ChatGPT or Claude or Perplexity. They ask this, and they hope that the machine god understands what they say and gives them a good answer. But the thing is, the AIs are pretty good at giving some pretty good answers.
Yes.
And in order to do that, the AI has a tendency to go out across the web and say like, hey, are there any search results out there that could help me give a good answer to this user? And that's where it starts like looking at your website and seeing that maybe you have some content that it can use as an answer. And it starts citing you. It might mention your brand in the response as a solution to someone's problem. And so in many ways, we're seeing like that's becoming the new user experience, if you will, where a lot of people are saying like, I'm experiencing this problem. And the AI says, oh, well, this brand is a solution or this product is a solution for you. And it's very powerful for companies because it means a lot of companies need to start publishing information about how they solve someone's problem in a way that the AI can digest and give as a response. So that's kind of the new AEO or whatever you want to call it, AI search optimization. That's kind of like the new thing that's been coming up. And some people believe it could like totally replace SEO or at least replace a major part of it. That's kind of the idea.
Sarah, do you have a take on what Google's doing right now? I feel like it's probably experimental just to see how it's adopted, but do you feel like they're making a push? Is it in their interest to make a push? Do you have any?
Th- Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, how do I put this in a polite way to Google? Because I like Google. I'm one of the few SEOs who's actually very pro Google. Most SEOs are actually very anti Google. But I'll say, like, on one hand, yes, there has been a push, arguably for years now. Once Bing came out with Copilot back in the very beginning part of 2023, and arguably it was really at the end of 2022 that Perplexity came out in December. Bing Copilot came out early 2023. Even Neva, rest in peace, Neva, they had an AI that they put in there. U.com had an AI. I mean, like, everybody came out with their AI search engine at the very beginning of 2023. And there was a lot of pressure on Google, like, hey, where's your AI? Like, you guys were promising this thing back on the Search On event back in 2021. They were talking about how they were going to launch a chatbot, and it never came. They had it for all of 2021 and all of 2022. It sounds like upper management just thought it was too risky. The Google AI researchers felt like they were getting blocked. They left Google. They went to this little company known as OpenAI. And then later that year, ChatGPT was doing all this conversational stuff that Google had promised. And all the other search engines were doing AI stuff even in early 2023. And everyone was looking at Google. And Google was like basically running scared because they're like, where's our AI? And so they have spent years now kind of slow rolling it, frankly. First, they did search generative experience. Then they did some AI overviews. Now they're doing AI mode. But it really took them until the middle of 2025 to actually roll out AI mode to all users. So it took them 2.5 years
Yeah.
to get up to where effectively Bing has been. I will say that Google's quality is a lot better than it used to be, and Bing Copilot was not very good 2 years ago. But it's like
Imagine.
they've kind of been, in my opinion, it's like yes, they're pushing for AI, but they've been pushing slow, and they're not moving as fast as ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity. Those startups are moving like 100 miles an hour, and Google has always been like kind of lagging behind. And there's this internal pressure for that company where they're afraid that they're getting Yahooed basically, and
Well,
that they're
hold out there.
becoming.
How could you say that?
So yeah, I mean,
Right.
they're kind of like they're running scared, and
Yeah.
I think that the problem is on one hand they're too large a company to be able to move that fast, but they're trying not to get left behind. I think they're getting left behind. That's my personal opinion. Is they got
Right.
left behind, but they're trying hard not to be, and so they are pushing AI pretty hard, but not as aggressively as, I mean, ChatGPT. ChatGPT is like AI is the whole thing.
Yeah.
So
They,
sorry to give you a
no,
long-winded response on that.
no, I love hearing your perspective of sort of what might be going on. Of course, it's all speculation right now. Everyone's sort of chattering about what they might be up to, but I feel like maybe for Google, because Google has its Gemini chat, but its AI search is sort of a search only instrument. It's not a standalone chat like the rest of these are. So I'm wondering how they're making that integrate with their already existing search algorithm, and then maybe hopefully making that smarter. So I feel like that's a different product over there, the AI search. I could be wrong. And also they're Google, so they can't get it wrong. Like when they do bring it out, it has to be like the best. So maybe that's part of the delay. I don't know. And I don't know how widely people are going to adopt it. And then, but a lot is so experimental right now. And I think they're probably testing the market to see if this is something people actually want and will actually use. But regardless of whether people use AI search through Google, they're still searching AI LLMs of all types that are available to them. So, um, as cybersecurity companies and tech companies in general, the B2B world, we all want to get mentioned by the AI, and we all want to know what's that magic sauce. How do we do that? Do you think people will start adopting Google's AI search?
That is an interesting one because I think, again, there's a lot of uncertainty and there's a lot of like questions, and I think even Google doesn't know. Because they're split between normal search results where they put the AI overviews at the top. Then they have this tab called AI mode, and then they've got Gemini, which is, and each one of those are different and they're different products and this kind of thing. And what we've seen so far with a lot of like user studies and like kind of yeah, just what people are actually using, it seems like a lot of people, when they go to Google, they still expect to go to the normal search results, and they might use the AI overview at the top. They might like that, sort of like the way they used to use featured snippets there.
Right.
But they also, users still want to go and see all the links, and they want to be able to click through to websites and go see those websites directly rather than have it summarized. And it feels like people are not adopting Google's AI mode. And what I mean by that is Google's been rolling out that AI mode. It's kind of like a separate tab that you'll see, and it operates much more like a proper AI that's hooked into a search engine. And it seems like from the studies I've seen, and this is partially from like iPull Rank, they basically brought in a whole bunch of users and actually sat over their shoulder and looked at like, if we give someone a search task, what do they use? And a lot of people were not engaging with Google's AI mode, surprisingly, even though it's free. I mean, it's right there. It's like a click away. And people were just kind of not really using it. And from what I've seen, Google has been trying to put the AI mode button like on the homepage and then in the AI overviews. And they have that little rainbow animation to say like, hey, you can use the AI mode. And it seems like they're constantly trying to push people to adopt it. But I have to wonder if it's because people aren't adopting it. And just as like a vibe check in the room, every time I hear people say like, "Oh, I used AI to search for that," they really mean ChatGPT, Perplexity, or maybe Claude, and they don't even think of Google as being an AI company, even though technically they are. They have competent AIs, and people have this like when they speak about search, they talk about Google over here and AI over there, like they're separate things. And so a lot of users who are using AI, it seems like when they use quote unquote AI, they really meant ChatGPT, Perplexity, and Claude. So every now and then you get like a big Grok fanboy, but a lot of people, they just don't associate Google with AI and being an AI search, which feels very reminiscent of kind of like Bing in a way. Like Bing was a competent search engine. There were occasional Bing users. In theory, like all Windows users
Right.
had Bing by default in an Internet Explorer. There was nothing wrong with Bing. It was totally competent, but people just had this vibe in the room of like, oh yeah, I don't use Bing because that's not a real search engine.
Yeah.
Google's the real search engine. And now it's like there's a similar vibe shift in the room where it's like people say I'm using AI and they know that Google has an AI. That's cool, but that's not a real AI to them. The real AI is actually ChatGPT. So I
Yeah.
have to wonder if AI's mode is going to make it. I certainly hope that Google is successful on that, but we'll see. What we will see.
Be a sad consequence of sort of the timing you were talking about. People had already adopted these other tools, and Google is still a search engine. So, and I do feel like, people use a hybrid approach. So they might do some research, do some questioning in ChatGPT, for example, and especially if they're trying to purchase a product and they're doing a little research on the product, they might get a few links from their conversation in ChatGPT and then go to Google and search those and see what they can find themselves on the websites. I do that personally. I sort of have a hybrid approach, but you're definitely right. I think a lot of people think of AI as the big names that came to us first, and Google sort of remained search. It's search with AI. Okay, that's nice, but I have this over here. I don't know how that's going to play out. And also, tech adoption is a fascinating thing to watch and just see how people are going to take to it. It's still new. Not everyone uses it every day like we do. um, or at least I do. I can speak for myself. A lot of marketers do. I know that. Or one industry that embraced it pretty early, um, along with coders.
Yeah.
So before, how the general public, like people doing their grocery shopping or buying their dog toys or whatever it is they're doing, how they are using it, I'm not sure whether they see it as valuable. Uh,
Yeah. There's some interesting initial studies on that if you're interested.
yeah,
But I would say like what people have been finding is that people like your average user is adopting, ChatGPT and AI, and they're adopting it pretty rapidly. I
well, they
mean,
are.
it's like once upon a time, tech adoption I feel like took a lot longer, and these days with AI, it's like stuff gets adopted in 6 months. And so it's just really, really fast. And
Yeah.
a lot of users, both B2B and B2C, are seeing a lot of adoption of like ChatGPT and these AI searches. And so there was always this question of, will that replace traditional search? Like, does new AI search truly replace traditional search? And you mentioned how you kind of like bounce back and forth between using, ChatGPT for some things, but then you want to go see a website. That seems to be how most people are using it, where they're continuing to use more and more of the AIs. And the AIs give them great, answers to questions and potential solutions, but people still want to go and like go to Google and search for exact brands or exact products or exact pages where they can see a firsthand source and see like the AI is not hallucinating. It's
Yes.
giving real information, or that information is coming directly from that brand and not just some AI summary of it.
Right.
And so people are kind of bouncing back and forth between, hey, I'm going to go ask the AI some things. Oh, that piques my interest. Maybe I'll go to Google and actually check that website myself. Oh, that gives me something to ask the AI, and they go back to the AI. So they kind of bounce back and forth. And it's not like AIO or AEO has become a straight replacement to SEO. It's more like it's just part of people's like buying journey to sort of swap between the two.
Right.
And that's becoming fairly common. And again, that's both B2C and B2B.
That's
So
true. And I mean, part of that is sometimes the AI hallucinates, and maybe we've experienced that. So it's trust. All right, I'm going to double check it on my own. And it's also maybe part of being human is I still want to make the decision myself. I still want to go and investigate and feel like I've made a decision myself. I don't, that's theory, but, and maybe this just part of the hybrid approach might just be part of how the adoption is happening. Maybe it just takes a little time to start trusting the AI more and not want to go search on your own as much. So, but anyway, for companies and B2B SaaS cybersecurity, one thing I think we've all noticed if you ever do go searching, especially on a buying decision sort of journey, the AI gives you a few choices. It's really good. One thing it's really good at is taking a lot of information and surfacing, a few good options as it sees it. So if there's only room for one or two or three answers in the AI answer to you, how do you get to be the company that's one of those that's named? That's what we all want to know. We want to be one of the three that is named in an AI conversation about our technology or our solution.
yeah, it's an interesting situation where a lot of customers, or people going along their buyer's journey will say something to the effect of like, hey, find and list the top 4, 6, however many cybersecurity companies that can help me secure, this really specific thing, endpoint security, email security, whatever it is. And the AI will go out across the web, try and find everything, and then come back with a list of somewhere in the ballpark of 4 to 6. If you don't specify the number, somewhere in the ballpark of like 4 to 6 options it'll try and give you. And so the question is like, how do we, from a cybersecurity marketing perspective, get into that list of 4 to 6, right?
Right.
And part of that is, you just need to make sure that you have content that literally says you are the solution to that problem, or that you are one of the companies that, solves that kind of thing. What I find is that when people ask that kind of prompt, the AI tends to go find a lot of content that is either lists or comparison pages.
Yeah.
So it's something like, the old SEO article would have been something like, top 6 cybersecurity tools for, SaaS security or something like that, or
Yes.
top 4 email security tools. And then someone wrote up a blog post and it says like, here's the top 4. And of course they mentioned their own brand at the very, very top.
Right.
That is something that the AI is still reading because, the AI was asked for a list of tools. It finds a blog post that's a list of tools. The AI is like, that looks perfect. That I'm going to go basically read that. And so the question is like, can you publish your own, lists and comparison pages and that sort of thing? The other thing is that you'll probably find that people go to Reddit and ask the same question, and they say like, hey, what are the top 4 email security, endpoint security, whatever is the AI security tools? And users will come and chime in and say like, oh, I've been using this thing and it's been great, and I've tried these things, and that effectively becomes a list that the AI can then use. So there's a little bit of anything where you can get yourself listed, not just on your own website, but also get mentioned by the community on social media or journalists or G2, Capterra, Trustpilot, TrustRadius. and it's a page that literally says, here's the top tools for this thing, and you are listed on it, the more likely you are to get mentioned by the AI and put in front of somebody. So that's kind of the idea of that.
Got it. Well, that sort of leads into my next question is I'm hearing that sort of third-party mentions are a way to be mentioned by the AI. It looks for those, I guess, as a, unbiased opinion, I guess it's looking for. So review sites, press, Reddit, Quora, maybe even social media like LinkedIn or Facebook. I'm not sure if they read those conversations actually, but basically, what role does third-party mentions play, and should companies be like doing everything they can to make those happen? Like, is that the magic, or is that over overhyped?
Yeah, no, yeah, it's a good question because when you go and you ask the AI like, hey, um, what are the tools in this space, or is this brand any good? The AI goes and it searches the web and it'll search pretty much any page that looks like it could help answer that question. And it's not just the pages that'll be on your website, but any third party places like an industry journal, that talked about you, or review sites, G2, Capterra, that kind of thing.
Right.
If people are asking about you on social media and you're being discussed on social media, the AI will look at those pages as well. And it doesn't really discriminate much on that. Like if it can find any information on you that's going to help it answer the question, then it'll find that across anything. And so there is a lot of importance in making sure that you're getting good, like earned media coverage from traditional media, that you're getting good coverage on social media, and so that like the community is talking about you well, or maybe you have like an influencer or a brand ambassador who can kind of help you out on that one.
Right.
Just anywhere you can get mentioned, then yeah, it's fair game for the AI, and you kind of want to make sure that number one, you are getting mentioned. Just the more coverage you have, the more likely the AI is to find you. But also that when people do mention you, they mention you with a positive sentiment. So they're not trash talking you on Reddit or something like that and saying that
Right.
they tried your product and it was no good. Because if the AI sees that, the AI is likely to say some users have used this product but reported mixed results. And Perplexity does a good job of sounding a little bit neutral, but it will say like users tried this thing and it didn't work for them and they were unhappy. And that's not necessarily what you want the AI talking about you as a brand.
Right.
But if that's what people are saying online, then the AI is going to say it straight. That's what it found.
Yeah.
And so you need to worry about getting coverage, but also getting positive coverage. And as well as positive coverage that positions you better than your competitors, or somehow being unique, or having a differentiator, or making you somehow like stand out rather than just another cybersecurity tool. Because Lord knows there's all sorts of email security and this kind of stuff.
So many.
But what makes you different? What makes you the thing that someone would select over all your competitors?
Right. There's a lot of that we don't have direct control over, right? We can't, but, you know, so part of me, the solution is we'll give them something to talk about, try to start conversations, try to create some kind of a buzz around your unique approach, your key differentiators. But you don't have control like the negative reviews or negative conversations. You don't have control over that. But there is something called brand listening where you should be paying attention to what people are saying about you. And if something negative comes up, that's when you need a representative to jump in and try to publicly solve the problem. We're so sorry you had that experience, blah, blah, blah. And we see brands doing that, right? So you have to pay attention. I think one of the lessons from this is pay attention to what people are saying about you because, you want to squelch any sort of negative uh, activity as best you can, right? Um,
Yeah. I I have an interesting tangent on that if it helps.
sure.
I was interviewing on another podcast. I was interviewing a startup founder, and she was basically saying that a lot of their sales they're very very early, right? I think they were pre-Series A, and they were talking about how a lot of their business came from word of mouth referral. And so I asked her like, well, how do in marketing that's always kind of magic when you get all this word of mouth referral marketing. Like how do you do it? And the fascinating part was her answer was basically a really great product and a really good customer support. It wasn't marketing. It wasn't marketing. It was have a great product that people love and they want to talk about, and then also have great customer support so that if someone has an issue, you address it. They're happy campers, and now they're the kinds of people who do want to refer. And so it's
Yes.
actually all post-sale stuff that really drives the word of mouth referral. It's not the marketing team, it's not usually the sales team.
Right.
But if you're out there and people are putting up negative customer reviews on G2 or Capterra, the AI sees that, just by the way. And if you aren't resolving those issues and you're not reaching out to those customers saying, hey, what was the issue? How can we resolve this so
Right.
that we turn this into a positive review? If you're not doing that, then you're just going to have a negative review like enshrined on G2 for the rest of your life.
Right.
And the AI knows that. And so it's like that comes back to good customer support and success, and it comes down to a great product. And if you have that, it's amazing how people go onto social media and start saying like, "Oh yeah, I've been using this thing. It's great. I recommend it."
Yes.
Um, and if it's not working out for them, they'll say it, and the AI will reflect it. So
Sure.
just an interesting tangent.
Right. No, that is a great insight because if your customer's been sitting there stewing on something that they're pretty angry about and they're asked to give a review, there was an opportunity, a guarantee before that for customer success to have solved the problem, right? Before they got that so angry that they felt like they needed to say something. Um, because people generally don't just, take their free time to go off and, try to destroy the reputation of a company. But if you're letting people down on the back end, that is a huge point. Like, make sure your customer success is stellar. And those are brands in the B2C world. Those are brands that stand out to me. Like, I'm just going to bring up Chick-fil-A real quick. I don't know if you've been to one of those personally, if you do that, but I'm not even that into chicken nuggets, right? It's not even my thing, but I have a 7-year-old who is. But one thing my husband and I note about Chick-fil-A is the service is always excellent. Like, just outstanding, better than any other restaurant in the area. Like, and that's where they win. And I feel like these days I think you just honed in on like one of the key pieces. If you have stellar customer service, you're going to stand out and you're going to be remarkable and you're going to be um um I don't want to say gossip worthy, not gossip, but you're going to be
Referable.
mentionable, referable. Yes, thank you. Thank you. I think that's a key insight. I really like that. It's a great advice. So we both work sort of in the startup world. Um, and a lot of these companies are pretty small and have limited teams. And what we're probably all wondering is, do small companies have a chance? And what can they really practically do with, limited resources, limited teams?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because in traditional SEO, it was all about ranking in that top 10 and really ideally the top number one position. But so often the number one position was owned by some really large company that had a bunch of domain authority that had been around for a decade. It's like these days I feel like it's CrowdStrike. It's like everywhere I go, it's going to be CrowdStrike, and they're ranking like number one to number three, and you're like, how am I supposed to beat that? That they have like all these content teams, and they've got like tons of backlinks and a website authority, and I'm just some small startup. How am I supposed to like outrank that? And the answer is you probably don't for many years until eventually you've built up a brand that's as big as CrowdStrike, which is going to take you time.
Yeah.
That's like the unfortunate thing. But with AEO and these AIs, it's a little bit different, because in some ways, like a lot of these newer AIs, they do have a concept of authority for websites and for brands. And so there is like a little bit of a difficulty with competing against that, but in the way that it's always difficult to compete against a large brand. It's not inherent to the AI or to the LLM. It's just like when you have a giant brand with a bunch of coverage and everyone knows it, yeah, you have like a natural marketing advantage over everyone else.
They-
But on the other hand, what I find is that more people are asking these highly niche questions or these really specific things in the AI. And there's a lot more of, if you will, long tail keywords and more like long tail prompts that are not being properly covered right now. The AI doesn't have a good answer to it. And as long as you can find those prompts, you can find those questions that people are asking and then publish content immediately, responding to it and giving a really great answer to that question better than everyone else. And it's something that's highly specific to people who really need your product or something that requires your kind of differentiator. Frankly, like there's a lot of opportunity there, where you don't need to be competing against CrowdStrike and these like really major brands. You're kind of focusing on your niche, and there's a lot less competition within that niche. It's kind of like it's almost a little bit of blue ocean strategy within AI prompts. If you're able to find those prompts where people are asking for things that there isn't a good security solution for that yet, or it's a rapidly emerging space that you're kind of taking over, usually the competition is much lower. And if you just really do a good job of answering that question, you stand a very good chance of getting cited by the AI and having it mention your brand to people. So
Yes.
there's still a lot of opportunity, and some people might argue actually more opportunity in AI, whereas SEO is more of a red ocean. There's a lot more competition there.
Right, because that's straight ranking and not so much AI's taking in a lot more different types of information as we discussed, the UGC, the mentions, as well as content on your site and comparisons. So what I was just thinking about is really when somebody is doing the thing we want them to do and it's them investigating, um, they're warming up to making a purchasing decision. All right, and these are the people we really, really want to bring to our websites, right? um, they're going to start asking the AI, what are those prompts going to be? Like for me, I feel like it's a little bit of a black box, first of all, because I'm not able to see what those conversations are the way we can do SEO keyword research. Or correct me if I'm wrong, is there a way to see those? But
Nope, nope, it's terrible.
yeah, okay, so we can't really see what exactly they're asking, but I'm guessing they're doing something similar when I'm shopping for like a new marketing tool. I start off pretty general. I'm looking for an email solution for email marketing, and it gives me some names. I'm like, all right, but what I really want is this. And I start getting into more details. These conversations are really sort of pre-sales or even sales conversations. So what I'm thinking about is if you have the AI answering those questions, you want some control over how it's answering them. Like you need to be able to answer in your content what used to be saved, reserved for that sales conversation. I think now that has to be part of your content, including feature comparisons, who you're for specifically, what you do best specifically, like how to solve X using Y kind of questions and answer those sales questions, because that conversation, I think we have to admit, is going to be happening before they ever come to your website or ever ask for a demo. Am I
Yeah.
right track, or this is just what I'm thinking out loud?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, actually, earlier this year, I was giving a talk at Boulder Startup Week, and I was basically making the argument to people that, basically customers are going to AI now, and they're asking not just like, what is cybersecurity? Why is it important? All that typical SEO stuff. Now they're asking stuff like, okay, well, what's the best endpoint security solution for a small company with under this amount of revenue? And give me, if this is a good option, find me customer reviews of that, find me positive and negative customer reviews, and whether or not the company was able to resolve the negative customer reviews. And then people, once they start zeroing in on a brand, they start asking like a lot of very specific brand questions, including stuff like, what does this company's pricing look like?
Right.
Are they going to try and lock me into an annual contract? What level of support am I going to get?
Right.
Do they have a service level agreement? Can I see some of the testimonials and case studies? I mean, these are basically sales questions. These are the questions that would have gone to an AE and would have been part of sales discovery or even a little bit beyond that. But people are going to the AI asking straight up sales questions, and they expect to get answers. They don't like when the AI comes back and says, oh, well, they don't really publish their pricing and it looks like it's enterprise and you'll have to contact them. And the AI will be honest with them about that,
Yeah.
but people don't always love that answer.
No.
And so, yeah, there's a lot of like, there's some sales questions that are shifting left, if you will, into marketing and AI stuff. And even for enterprise, where normally you kind of gate stuff behind a contact us and say, come talk to our salespeople, even then there's kind of pressure to start answering those sales questions. And so part of what I've told people is, on one hand, you still need to cover all the awareness level questions and consideration and decision. But I'd also say really talk to your salespeople, really get recordings of sales calls and the questions that people are asking on those sales calls to your salespeople. And then ask yourself, were they probably asking that question to the AI before they got into that call? And is that something that marketing should have been publishing so that the AI is giving a good answer before they even get to sales, which in theory should actually save the sales team a little bit of time on answering, generic or basic questions so that the AEs can like really dig into an individual account's like major problems and try and give more of a personalized solution, because that's really the magic of a good AE that an AI can't quite do. So
Oh,
yeah, hopefully that helps.
so many thoughts in my head about what we should be providing on our websites. Like the good news is though, what I see as the good news is you might be getting less traffic right now to your site through search and AI. Maybe you're getting less traffic, but that traffic is very, very warm if it's coming to your site. If they're already having this conversation and they've already narrowed down that, and we know that customers like to do that, right? They want to be really close to a buying decision before they hit that demo button. We already know that was already happening, but now even more so. But if your competitor is giving away all the stuff for free, like here's all of our integrations, here's actually how we work, here's the environments we work in best, here are the customers that we're best suited for, all of the details people want to ask. Somebody, they're providing that, and you're like, just contact sales. Who's going to win that battle, right? So, okay, it gives us a lot to think about. A lot to think
Yeah,
about.
I would also say, especially in cybersecurity, I feel like cybersecurity is one that is particularly impacted by this,
Yeah.
because I feel like there's a lot of these cybersecurity professionals who are buying cybersecurity, technology. A lot of them are kind of a little bit on the introverted side, and they do a lot of research online for like what is this new attack type I'm seeing, what's a new way of protecting against this attack type. They've always been very like a very big industry for searching on Google,
Right. They're
and they're also
nerdy,
yeah, and they're also
nerdy.
paranoid people
Yeah,
who don't like talking to sales. They're like, oh, sales is going to try and sell me a bunch of stuff because they are.
they are.
And cybersecurity people are kind of inherently like, yeah, you're trying to get money out of me, and so they like getting stuff off of websites and AI and really confirming and doing all their research first
Right.
before they have to jump on a call with somebody. And so the AI is extremely powerful, I think, for cybersecurity, more so than most other industries.
Right. Cybersecurity and probably B2B tech in general, because, and we all know that it's not a person also, it's usually a buying committee. There's
Yeah.
levels of a buying process and it's pretty long and drawn out, but whoever is having these conversations, it could be any one of the people who are involved in the buying process. But if you win one of them over, they can find proof. If you're giving them the answers they want, the things they're searching for, all the information laid out on a silver platter, you are more likely to be the choice than someone like hiding all of it behind a demo, basically.
Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah.
not going to work anymore, is what I'm thinking. Um, in general, now I've heard talk about optimizing for optimize for ChatGPT or optimize for a Perplexity or any of them really, or should we be optimizing for a certain model, like our audience is using a certain model and we decided to just optimize for that one? Or should it be LLMs in general? And is there a difference between that approach? I just hear people talking about that.
Yeah. So it's a good question. I think right now there's all this concern about like, hey, I want to get into Google's AI overviews and the AI mode, and I want to be on ChatGPT and Claude and Perplexity and Grok and DeepSeek and
Right.
Llama, and it's just like, good lord. And the thing is, they all use different search engines. Even Google has three different AIs that are using their own internal different versions of search engines.
Wow.
And then, ChatGPT has their own internal version. Perplexity uses its own. And so, like, now you're doing SEO across so many different platforms and different AIs, and they all give you slightly different responses. And
Yeah.
it seems like, how are you even supposed to like do all of that? And in my opinion, I have been sort of leaning more and more in the direction of maybe you just shouldn't, because I would argue it's like early on in the social media revolution in Web 2.0, everyone's like, oh, I want to get my brand on literally every single social media platform out there and just get as much brand coverage as I can. And I respect the sentiment because it's like, it is good for your brand to just be everywhere. But over time, we sort of saw this thing where, like certain platforms were better for certain things. If you're going after professionals, you really need to be on LinkedIn. If you're going after like consumers, maybe Facebook was the better place to be, right? If you were looking at certain types of customers, they were on Instagram, or for certain types of customers, they're on YouTube. And
Right.
you kind of started to see the segmentation between different social media platforms having different audiences. And I would argue you might want to just know where your audience is and then focus on those platforms. Well, I would take a similar argument with AI. For the longest time right now, it's just like, oh, I got to get on all the AIs because I just want to be on all the AIs. And I get it. But the thing is, we're starting to see a segmentation in user bases between the different AIs.
Mhm.
So, for example, like everyone thinks ChatGPT ChatGPT has really been making a lot of inroads with what I would say is just users, and I mean that in the consumer base. So your personal users, a lot of Gen Z. We see a lot of students,
Yep.
which is why ChatGPT launched that whole study and learn mode, is specifically for like high schoolers and university students and that kind of thing. We see a lot of personal usage and people wanting ChatGPT to be their virtual girlfriend or whatever.
Right.
And if you're going after consumers, that might be the place to go. But Anthropic, which is the developer of Claude, they took the entirely different approach. They are all in on enterprise. They want enterprise organizations. They want Fortune 100. They're going after government organizations and academia, so big universities, and they're all in on that crowd. The same way that like in some ways, you could say that Apple went after users and Microsoft did a good job of going after businesses. And to some degree, you could say the same thing happened with Dropbox and Box. Dropbox was very popular with users. Box went after enterprise. Well, ChatGPT is going after your consumers, and then Anthropic and Claude, they're going after professionals, white collar workers, and that kind of thing.
Right.
And then we see Perplexity kind of getting some traction with academics, researchers, and I would just say
Yeah.
curious people, if you will.
Right. Researchers, thinkers.
Exactly. And then when you get to Grok is, they're kind of like lagging behind in a way. And so right now they're trying to go after consumers, enterprise, and government. And I'm like, that's not sustainable. You're not going to be able to win on all three fronts there. So I suspect that Grok will find a differentiator that just focuses in on something. If I had to guess, if I were a betting man, which I'm not, but if you put a gun in my head and say, where will Grok go? I'll say that Grok has an integration with X because
Yeah.
it's all Elon territory. So it has a real-time integration with Twitter basically, and Twitter is the fastest news wire in the West, effectively. And when you think of it that way, there's an opportunity for Grok to maybe go after journalists, social media influencers, and content creators because it has more of that energy and it's a lot more locked into the social media like group, at least X. Um, Maybe they'll go that way. Maybe they won't. But that's me speculating. That's
Right.
not
Right. I
the
understand.
case today. But that's also why I say, like, to some degree, we see with Google AI mode and Gemini. With AI mode, people are using that for shopping. There's a lot of consumer shopping going on there. And so if you're selling, widgets almost like on Amazon, that does make sense because people do shopping on Google and Google has like a product graph. So that does make sense. Gemini is more popular with anyone who's already on Google Workspace, right? So they've got their Gmail, their Google Slides, their calendar, their all this kind of stuff.
That's a lot of people
And
in the tech world too, or at least,
yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of SMB
or
as
small business.
well.
Yes, small,
Yeah,
like startups. So maybe not your customer. I need to think that through. They might be
yeah.
your customer. They might be you. Right.
Yeah, exactly. So Gemini kind of is getting bundled in with the rest of Google Workspace, which makes sense if they're just saying, "Hey, it's another Google Workspace thing." And it also is going to be more popular with anyone who is a Google Cloud developer. They're locked into that ecosystem, so they're going to be using Gemini. And you can kind of think the same thing with Microsoft Copilot. It's coming in for these large companies, Fortune 100. They have the whole Microsoft Office bundle, and Microsoft is like basically inserting Copilot as one more tool in Microsoft Office.
Right.
So there's some Fortune 100, there's some enterprise there, there are some like Azure developers in there,
Right.
Windows users. If you're just going after general Windows users, there's something there.
You-
But I do think that there's less interest in Gemini and Copilot, and to me, the big three are ChatGPT for consumers, Claude for professionals, and then Perplexity for curious people, if you will. Those are kind of like the big three.
that is super helpful. So you really got to think about what your audience is probably using. Well, you have to understand who your audience is, and then what they're probably using the most, and maybe focus on that as well as each general. I think all the tips you've given so far sound like will help any of the AIs pick you up. But it's just if you can fine tune to a particular model, pick the one that you feel like your audience is on most.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
I've got a few fast questions at the end. I hope you don't stump you on anything. I doubt it though.
No worries.
You seem to have the answers. Um, all right. So, what's better, a strong backlink or a brand mention
Well, that's
with no link?
with no link. Oh man,
Like you mentioned,
I mean,
Nicole or the Reddit or something like that.
in the era of just pure AI, I would probably lean towards a brand mention. What I've noticed is that, obviously backlinks still matter in the sense that they get you into the AI's search engine, and they do count backlinks just like Google always did. Though it feels like they measure it a lot less than Google did. It doesn't feel as powerful, and even arguably, Google has been slowly devaluing the power of backlinks over the course of like 20, 26 years or however long they've
It's-
been around.
People have been trying to
Uh,
game that system, and as soon as people trying to game the system, they're gonna ungame it.
yeah,
Think like
it's the gameability of it, but I would also say at a philosophical level, backlinks were in some ways always the wrong thing to be measuring. This is Lee's
well,
hot
here we go.
take. So like the reason why I say that is really Google, traditional Google, and to some degree the modern AIs, their main thing is about being given a question and trying to give the best possible answer.
Yeah.
And that should be measured by whether or not the user actually engages with that answer. But back in 1998, there were no such metrics. And so what they did was they just said, okay, well, if this page gets linked to by a bunch of other pages, then that's like a citation, if you will, and that's very important. But there's a key difference between when one publisher is endorsing another publisher for being a good source of information, as opposed to a user asking a question and finding that answer on this page. Those are two different relationships if you really think about it.
Yeah.
A publisher endorsing you and a user engaging with you are two different things. And whether or not you are a good source or a good original quote for someone else's website does not necessarily mean you are a good answer to this searcher's question. And so in the choice between Google, like really measuring user engagement metrics versus backlinks from fellow publishers are not the people that Google are serving. Google is really serving the searcher. And so those user engagement metrics are really what it wanted to measure more and more and more. And Google kind of like devalued backlinks more and more and more over the course of decades. And I feel like the AIs are in a similar place. They can just understand your content and whether or not it actually answers the question. That's really what they care about way more than a backlink.
Yeah.
And so if you're getting brand mentions and people are saying that you are the solution to someone's problem, that's really what the AI cares about. So the brand mentions, in my opinion, are, at least for now, way more powerful.
Yeah.
And I would focus on that a little bit more than old school backlinks.
Cool.
So sorry for the random tangent on that
That's
one.
a little shift in our thinking, though. We always think, oh, we want to get that backlink, but not necessarily as powerful as we think it is. And it's a little bit evening the playing field, too, because we all know the big dogs have all the backlinks, the little guys don't. This sort of, evens playing field a little bit, makes it a little more democratic.
Yeah. Though to be fair, the big brands do get more mentions and coverage
Yeah,
than the
they
rest
still
of us. So there is still that.
Yeah. Yes, it'll be interesting how this plays out. How the AI sort of sift through, okay, they have the most mentions, but are they the best answer? And like you said, answer the question.
Yeah.
Answer the questions. Okay, should we update old content for AI, or should we just start new and start creating new content and maybe even delete old content?
Yeah. That is an interesting one. And I know that like some companies have taken the approach of just trying to re-optimize everything they have for AI, and other people are taking the approach of just writing net new content that's specifically for AI. At least in my experience with SEO, usually what I found was they spent a lot of time writing content that wasn't really meant to be made for search engines or searches or searchers. And then they would try and like come back a year later and then pretzel twist the thing into being an SEO post that was targeting a specific searcher for a specific search and giving them what they wanted. But in the process, they ended up rewriting so much of the content because it's basically being pointed towards a whole new audience at a whole new moment of their buyer's journey, that it almost needs like a full rewrite at that point. And if you're going to effectively rewrite 80 to 90% of the content, you might as well have just written a net new post. Right. And I find that that's probably going to be the case with AI optimization as well. If you have a page that was made for, some other channel or some other, kind of user, and it wasn't really made with search in mind, if you try and pretzel twist that thing into being an AI optimized page, you're only either going to take it so far, while retaining the original content, or you're going to end up basically rewriting the entire thing, at which point you might as well just write net new content. For me, I generally recommend like just find the prompt that people are asking, figure out the AI's steps and what it wants to give as a response, and to just make a net new page that is specifically targeting that. And now you don't have to go cannibalize your other content to try and get that to be AI optimized. No, you just have a page that is literally for the AI and its users. And that usually works out a lot better, and it's a lot less costly from a content perspective.
Okay, great. Because that sounds like a lot of work. Like you said, to go back and try to rework something can take sometimes even more time than just creating something new, or it's more of an effort and too forced, frankly.
Yeah.
Um, so what is, oh, these are fun to ask. What is one SEO myth that needs to be broken?
Oh, man, I don't even know where to begin with that
Hope to not
one.
make your fellows mad. Some you see people talking about that is not right.
Yeah,
It doesn't have to be AI.
it doesn't have to be AI. I guess I might like take a 10,000 foot view on that one. And instead of like a really, what I would say is, okay, maybe this is the myth I'll go with. I think the myth of search engine optimization and AI optimization is that it's about optimizing for search engines or optimizing for AI. It's like it's the greatest lie in a way that search engine optimization should be optimizing for search engines, because the search engines themselves are really trying to optimize for their searchers. And it's led to this mindset where there's a lot of SEOs who are trying to trick the algorithm. They're trying to optimize for the algorithm with absolutely zero interest in helping the audience. And so they're doing like these little like black hat tricks that they work. They get you into the algorithm. They get you into the AI for all of a few months or even a few years, but it's not really there to help your customer. It's not really there to help the AI's audience or the search engine's audience. And so therefore those companies have an interest in cracking down on your tactics and making them go away
Right.
so that they can give better answers to users. And so that's partially why, earlier in our talk I said that some people talk about, AI optimization, and some people say like search journey optimization or searcher experience optimization. I'm actually more partial to those terms because they focus you on optimizing for the search engine's user or for the searcher rather than just the algorithm. And the reason why I go hard on that is just because if you're a marketer and you believe your job is to trick algorithms rather than help your audience, are you really doing marketing anymore? The whole point of marketing is helping connect people's problems to your company's solutions.
Right.
And yes, we go through an algorithm to do that. It's the bridge we cross to get there, and it's the bridge that people cross to get to us.
Right.
But the algorithm is not the audience. Like, it should never have been overemphasized
Oh
that way.
man,
But
that's the
yeah,
quote I'm pulling from this. The algorithm is not the audience. You're singing my song as a content person. I'm like, all of this is an effort to get traffic to your site. But when the person gets there, what's happening? Are they disappointed in what they found? Are they, leaving him like, yes, you're ultimately need to please the searcher and give them the answer they were looking for. So that is fantastic advice. I love that. So what's one thing, or maybe a couple things you can think of that small cyber companies can stop doing right now? Like, what are they doing wrong? Do you see any trends that people are just trying and not working? Like maybe like what you just mentioned, some tricks to get mentioned by the AI, but they aren't working, or anything really.
yeah. I mean, just as an example, lately there's been this emphasis on just posting all of your content on Reddit, or going across Reddit and then trying to mention your brand on every comment thread and every like post that you possibly can. Just like saturate Reddit with mentions of your brand.
Yeah.
And there's this faith that like, oh well, the AI companies just like really like Reddit, and so if you just spam Reddit a whole bunch, it'll make it into the AI. And that falls again into the camp of, okay, we're tricking the algorithm, but are we actually helping the algorithm's audience? And OpenAI, it seems like they might have been getting some bad responses,
Yeah.
or they were giving bad responses to users. Users were hitting the dislike button, which is a thing to be worried about, by the way. If people hit the dislike button at the end of their thread, that tells the AI company that it gave a bad response and it needs to learn how to give a better response.
That's
So
right.
even if you've got your brand mentioned in that response, that does not mean it's going to stick if people are not liking it. And so OpenAI recently, they were, I think, citing Reddit like 14% of the time. And they said, a lot of these pages aren't that good. And so by the end of the month, they were only citing Reddit like 2% of the time. So they like really pulled back on using Reddit. And so that's, again, an example of don't worry about tricking the algorithm, because if you try to trick the algorithm will strike back, right? It
Yes.
has a business incentive to do that. But if you're just going and figuring out like, what is it that your customers are asking for? Again, go talk to your sales team, go talk to the product management team even, and see what feature requests they're getting. Figure out the pain points people are expressing, how they would put that into an AI prompt, and then create a page answering how people can make that pain go away or answering that question.
Right.
And now you're helping the algorithm and the AI help its users. You're giving the users what they actually want.
Right.
The users are now going to hit the like button on the AI. The AI says, hey, that was a good response. I should keep giving that. And it also means users are now happy with what you're giving them. So you are a helpful, useful brand to them. So yeah, that's me on my soapbox there. But
No, I totally agree. I've also heard that OpenAI and others are cracking down. Like I said, as soon as people try to game the system, the algorithms are going to put a stop to it, and it happens everywhere. So no, don't be running into Reddit and try with get everybody to sign up with IDs and get in there and mention your brand, like some shady tactics that people were trying, and also the audience. You're losing trust. Like that's a huge risk of losing trust for your brand.
yeah,
Because people see through that stuff, right? They see what's happening. So I feel like that's a
yeah,
really bad idea. Just like you said, focus on what you're doing over here and answer the
yeah.
questions and make everybody happy.
Yeah,
Um,
I'll give a quick caveat if it
yeah,
helps. I'm all good with people going to Reddit where their community actually is, and when they see a post and the community asks like a genuine question, and your brand goes and answers it and tries to help that person, that's totally fine. Firstly, from an AI perspective, because if that person went to Reddit and asked that question, there's probably a lot of other people going to AI and asking the same question, and you are providing a legitimate answer trying to help them out. That works for the AI just as much as it also makes you a good community member on Reddit, which is good. And again, it's focusing on the audience, not the algorithm. And the algorithm wants to reward that, and you're not going to get banned off of Reddit as well. That helps.
right. But you can't go in there like buy my thing. Like you have to go in there as genuinely helpful and not attempting to make a sale at all. Like just go in there to be helpful.
Yeah,
That's fine. And I also think it's a great listening device.
yeah,
Listening to people,
absolutely.
what people are asking around your um, technology solution, what people are asking about topics around your industry, and find out sort of the real words that they're using and the way people phrase things, because that's something content marketing then can start incorporating in the content as well, not just what they're asking, but how they're asking it. So that's just my
Yeah,
2 cents on that on the Reddit part. Well, thank you so much for being here. This has been super helpful, and I feel like it's going to be helpful to the community in general. Everyone's asking these questions, so I feel like you've had a lot of great advice to offer. If you want to connect with Lee or learn more about his work, check out coopermarketing.com. That's cooper-marketing.com. Or hit him up on LinkedIn, and I will put links in the description below. And if you're a cyber business pro doing cool stuff, building, leading, experimenting, I want to hear from you. This community was built to shine a light on people like you. Until next time, keep showing up, keep sharing what you know, and keep pushing the industry forward.